All right, folks, here we go on this Tuesday. Yes, we're going to be rolling out very, very soon. A couple minutes, but we're going to start right now. We're absolutely going to start. Like many of you, I am just, well, we'll let everybody file in. Hi there, Debbie. Merry Christmas, one and all. Folks, we will not be on tomorrow. So, and I don't think we're going to be live on Friday unless something very dramatic happened. Unless something very dramatic happens. So I want to say Merry Christmas now. Merry Christmas to Bruce. Yes, Merry Christmas, one and all. We say that here. Yes. Merry Christmas indeed. Yep. And folks, what I have so much to get to, and I want to make sure I'm in the right mode, but it is it is really yes. Debbie says Merry Christmas. And thank you everybody for there's Janet Dwyer. Hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas. Again, I am looking forward to seeing my my children arriving tonight. My son is already here, so we have but again, let's wait and see how things break out. You know, I'm not, for instance, I'm not going to say, well, we're definitely not going to be on Friday, because if we've already demonstrated this. Sal, Merry Christmas to Sal as well, folks. He is such a big part of the program. Yes, but I now we're going to talk to Danny Gannon coming up. Excuse me, at 1:30. 1:30. There's Mary Ellen. Yes, folks. Christmas stars. Thank you, everybody. I'm just so disgusted. I'll tell you what Santa needs to bring is some leadership. Santa needs to bring some leadership and over. Um I don't see it, but some other. I'd love to see other people get in trouble with the Bucci incident. I don't know what that means. No one is perfect. Um, yeah, but her she has an apology. I'll put that. You love to see other people get in trouble with the. Well, it can happen to anyone. How about the next day she could apologize to the police? Whoever this is. How about the next day she went to look at this? No one who said that. How about the fact that it'll straighten out? How about the fact that yeah, you go where you know, Danny Gannon, that's right. It'll straighten out. It sometimes happens, we hit like that. But look at that. You love to see. No, I don't. It's embarrassing, as a matter of fact. Whoever this is, probably tied in Bucci. Her behavior with the East Greenwich Police. Now I've posted. It's on YouTube. We have it on Facebook. We have it on all our platforms. Let me be very clear. Her behavior is just nothing short of fucking embarrassing. And I'm trying not to drop F-bombs as we get closer to Christmas Eve and Christmas, and I'm not going to do that. But look at this. Yes, she was trying to get out of it. You know who I am, right? Look at this jerk. This is someone connected with her. She wanted to be the mayor of Cranston. And by the way, I've heard she's been a drunken mess at bars all over Rhode Island now as people are coming forward. Paula M. Paul, whoever this is, a Bucci sycophant. Yes, Santa needs to bring is some leadership. She could apologize to the East Greenwich Police. She could have released a statement the next day. Look what it becomes. You love to see people. Oh, so I shouldn't show it. You love to see people get in trouble. You know who I am, right? She is such a nobody. Let me be very clear about that. Maria Bucci. She is such a zero. Her get out of it. What a zero she is. And she's still the chairwoman of the Democrat Party in Cranston, which is a disgrace. It is. Folks, don't forget PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They are open today, tomorrow, and then that's it. Then close shop. But stop it and see them. Last minute gifts. I can't believe. Can you imagine getting that thing? Wow. You just see people. Like I said, she could have for her behavior to these police, the drunk. Is there anything worse than a drunk female? You know, she's a nobody. She is the biggest nobody, as a matter of fact. Bucci. She wanted to be the mayor. I'm going to call my husband, right? I'm going to call my husband. You're trying to embarrass me. That fucking accent. Don't get me started. I'm trying to be in a good mode. Helena Foulkes has to be told to give the money back. Helena Foulkes does. Like, this is where we're at. That folks had. Oh, there we go. This was where we're at right now in Rhode Island, where she has to be told. Oh, the next night, Bucci was at a fundraiser for folks. Guess what? Merry Christmas, Pam Riley. That's not our problem. That's folks' problem. Helena Foulkes, the young Republicans now have to ask Helena Foulkes to give the money. Like, oh, I hate this donate. Just give the drunk her money back. As a matter of fact, instead of donating it, give her a $500 gift certificate to a liquor store. Helena Foulkes still hasn't given the money back. So now we have to shame her to get her to give it back. Maria Bucci's behavior with the police is nothing short of disgraceful. Now, if they want to argue, listen, she is still right now chairwoman of the Democrat Party in Cranston. She is also, and no, she could issue a statement. Number one, resigning as chairwoman of the Democrat Party, and then number two, she could apologize for her behavior to the East Greenwich police. She hasn't done either. So, listen, I am telling you, we are such, we don't have any leadership. And I'll also, this business of the locals saying, oh, good, Pete says we're all set. That, and then look at that, how the Bucci people come after me. You love to see, what is that supposed to mean? Should I pretend it didn't happen? What a drunk she is. How old are you? You know who I am? What a disgrace. What a drunken hagbag she is. She wanted to, she would have been the mayor. And she's still the chairwoman of the Democrat Party in Cranston. What a disgrace. She is absolute trash. And you know what I hate? I wonder, has that worked before? Yeah, she is. Yep. What an absolute. I know some of her family. I don't care. Yep. They are just the worst. You know who I am. Like an East Greenwich patrolman would know who's the failed Democrat who ran for mayor of Cranston. Like, here's the other thing that's embarrassing. Merry Christmas, Sal. Here's the other thing. The whole thing of the do you know who I am? Maria Bucci of Cranston. Not only that, she's a nobody. She's a nobody. Like, to me, that's actually worse. Hold on 1 second. That makes it worse to me. You want to talk about a drunk. Not only is she nobody, you're embarrassing me. I mean, what she has that same annoying, embarrassing accent as Charlie Lima. I wasn't even drinking. Oh my God. But not only does she pull the do you know who I am, she's a nobody. Like, I wouldn't know who she is. I have no idea. If I was out somewhere and she came obviously a drunk shiz, but disgrace, and started saying, you know who I am. No, I don't know who you are. They are. Complete disgrace. Boy, we need new leadership. See, this happened. The next night, we're going to start in 3 minutes. The next night, she attended a fundraiser for Helena Foulkes. That's Helena Foulkes' problem. It shows you how clueless Bucci is, Maria Bucci. Does she contact the folks and say, hey, listen, I came in, I have a little bit of a problem. I can't get there. Yeah, the officer was great. That's what she should have done. No, she shows up. You know why? Because she's a clueless drunk. What an absolute hagbag she is. It's fine. We're going to work on it. We're going to improve on it. All right, enough of this. We're working on it. God, focus on the wrong stuff I'm talking about. Instead of giving me a hard time. We're working on it. I'm watching the bottom of the screen, and there's no lag. It's going across just fine. So all these armchair quarterbacks. Despite that, the biggest story in years hits. Who's on national television the most during the story? I was 3 times on Fox, 3 times on Newsmax. Do you understand what that means? Think of Rhode Island Monthly with their stupid independent journalist thing. The biggest story since the station nightclub fire hits. Who dominates the airwaves? Merry Christmas to you. A gift I have is that Michael Correa is my friend, and I'm proud to be his friend. So good afternoon, Bill. Yes. And there's our friend Bill. So, oh, good. Thank you, Danielle. If you're watching from your phone, take it off Wi-Fi and use your data. It will stop. Thank you, Danielle. All of these blanket complaints. My God. Let's just be very clear about that, right? The biggest story since the station nightclub fire hits. Fox 3 times, Newsmax 3 times, 6 times national television. End of story, period. Mic drop, whatever you want to say. He's the greatest. He's a very good friend of mine. I love the guy and I respect him. All right, we're going to begin in just a minute. Now that I'm in the Christmas spirit, I can't stand it, but we are going to talk to Danny Gannon. Yes, at the bottom of the hour. Thank you, Steve. So, and put this in perspective. And Pete doesn't have to worry. As soon as we hit the airwaves, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yes. Well, I'm trying single-handedly. All right, we're going to begin. This is the John DePetro Show. Yes, it is at 106. Folks, this portion of our program, right now we are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. We're live on X. We're live on AM 1380 and 99.9 FM. And you can always listen online at the website, depetro.com. Don't forget, PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. This is it. The final push. They have great gifts. They have everything you need. Don't show up empty-handed. PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They want to thank everyone. Their best year ever. I'm so happy for them. 3688 Quaker Lane in North Kingstown. Thank you, Bendy. Loud and clear. Yep. The biggest story since the station nightclub fire hits the area. Let's go to who was on national television. Who's the go-to person? Who was on the ground? Who had more details than anyone? Right here. We end the year with a bang. We started the year with a bang. First one on the scene with the horrific story in Hopkinton, or West Greenwich, I think, actually, as the, we don't need to go into the details, but think that started the year. First one on the scene by 45 minutes. And then now we end it with this story. Folks, again, I want to thank Merry Christmas to everyone. PR Landscape Materials and Garden Center. They want to thank you for making this a big year. Also, the Coesit Inn. We want to thank them. 226 Coesit Avenue, West Warwick. Lunch, dinner, drinks in the lounge. Hey, last minute group comes together. You need a big spot. The Coesit Inn. They're open 7 days a week. I want to thank Propane Plus. Propane Plus, big supporters of the program. Tim Johnson and his family said, we ride with you, serving Rhode Island and Massachusetts, always online at propaneplus.com. So some of the latest developments with Brown University and other parts of the story. Now, number one, Chapman is out. Rodney Chapman. There's some background to that because I have been referring to them as Brown Police. They used to be Brown Police until Rodney Chapman came in. And suddenly now, he's the vice president in charge of public safety. Why is it called And by the way, Brown University police, they're a real police department. Obviously, they have cars, they carry weapons, they have detectives, they investigate things. I know several people that were in our Brown police. They have some newer people, they have some former retired law enforcement. I have a feeling they're going to go through change. But just to give you an idea, Rodney Chapman, who's now been placed on administrative leave, let's use the term public safety, because the word police, we don't want to frighten a lot of the students. The attitude at Brown University needs to change. And I want to be very clear. It's a private university. Let's see what the Board of Trustees decide regarding President Paxson. But President Christina Paxson has made some very significant changes. Some very significant changes. Number one, hiring Zach Kuna, who will represent the university. Number two, they are being scrutinized by the Trump administration. You can't just operate by your own rules. And then number three, and we're going to talk to Danny Gannon about this, our police expert, former lieutenant with Providence Police, because they have named Hugh Clemens, who's a friend of mine. I've known him since he was a detective. They've named Hugh Clemens, former chief of Providence. Most recently, he took a federal job, and they call it the COPS program in D.C. He is being brought in as interim chief. Here's what you should know about Chief Clemens. In my view, Christina Paxson, the Brown University president, could not have chosen a better person, and for several reasons. Number one, he was a phenomenal chief of police in Providence. They named the auditorium after him, and he left for this federal job. Try things out on the national stage. It went well, but then with politics, new administration comes in, and so you're out. He knows Providence. A big part of moving forward will be coordinating efforts with Providence Police. He ran the Providence Police Department. At some point, we will have an interview with Hugh Clemens, and I'm very happy for him. They could not have chosen a better person. Someone actually had mentioned, what about one of the former heads of the Rhode Island State Police? There's some good people, but Hugh Clemens was the chief in Providence. Hugh Clemens, at some point, when he addresses the media, tremendous credibility. Number two, when he has to address the trustees, tremendous credibility. And with police, Hugh Clemens has presence. Hugh Clemens will get this thing on track. And they get about 5 weeks before the students come back to really get some things in place. Brown University, I know nationwide, the Providence police were getting beat up quite a bit with this. I don't view it that way. Someone that was on the ground didn't really went off track. There were problems. The fact Brown ran before this incident, and those problems need to be changed. They need to change the way they do things. You can't just have open buildings. You can't have people that say, I feel for these homeless people, so we want to let them in. You can't have that. There's a difference between homeless people walking around the campus, and there's a difference between that and then actually allowing people in the building. Once you start to say, anyone can come in and use our building, anyone, and I can hear it. I could hear this aggressive that was in the media. You could hear him say, the guy just needs to use the restroom. Is that a crime? He just needs to use the restroom. When you start to have laxity, you can't control who comes in. This is not, for those of you that don't know, and I know the East Side better than anyone, actually, and I know Fox Point better than anyone. There is a homeless population. There's definitely homeless people around their street. And why do they do that? Because a lot of the students buy them things and give them money for food. And so there's a pretty decent contingent of homeless that in and around their street. And you can just picture these do-gooders, the progressives, saying the guy needs to use the bath. Well, that's the least we could let him in there. I want to tell you what such a good person I am. We're going to let these people shower in our dorm. Again, all these intentions, once you open that up and relax things and start to say, it's cold out, he's a person, let them come in and get warm. Once you start to do that, you can't control who comes through the door. When you have the custodian saying there was a guy walking around, seems suspicious, peeking in classrooms. Obviously, they're more on guard for theft, but he was flagged. And the system they had with Brown clearly was not set up for that, because you have Brown public safety. We can't use the word police. That may traumatize students. You have that. And then they jobbed out, and they had basically just security guards, but who were not told, and that's such like I just do my job. That's not my job. My job is to do this. There's a suspicious guy walking around. That's not they're not even set up for that. They don't even have protocol for that. So a couple of things, and you're going to hear different people, all this talk about, Rhode Island met the moment and so forth. Anyone that says that has not been online and has not watched how the Providence police essentially were carved up on media of being Keystone cops. I think it's unfair. Several things happened. Number one, the way Brown ran things, and that's going to change. And by the way, Trump administration, they're going after them and saying basically, you don't have the right. You don't have the right to say we're not going to have cameras. You don't have the right to say we're going to open buildings. You have an obligation to provide security for all your students. Now, I want to step back for a moment, and we are going to talk to Danny Gannon at the to talk about Hugh Clements coming in, which is a positive. But when I started covering the protests at Brown after what happened with Israel, October 7th, right, 2 years ago, and then you started to have all the protests, and then you started to have the Palestinian protesters come out, and they want Brown to divest from certain companies. Then you had the Textron protests. Then you had the students that sat in at the president's office and got arrested. And every time I was there, and then they're negotiating, and look at how they arrested these students and blah, blah, blah. What would the Palestinian protesters, they had a lot of demands. Two demands consistently they made to the administration. One, we want less police. You don't need all these police up here. That was number one. Number two, a big demand of these pro-Hamas. That's what they are, anti-Israel. These anti-Semitic, pro-Hamas protesters. One of their big demands were they didn't want the cameras. Get rid of the cameras. That infringes on my freedom of speech. Get rid of. There was a movement the past 2 years to get rid of security cameras on campus. That's going to change. But when you talk about, now, there's several things here. One, just because a bunch of student protesters are making demands, and those of you, I was up there the night that a bunch of them got arrested. That was also, by the way, the same night when the Washington Bridge was closed. So, but Miguel Sanchez was up there, and the Providence Socialists and the Progressives, they were putting pressure on that. It is pathetic that they have no cameras in the building. It's pathetic that Brown had one camera on the outside that showed the shooter crossing the street on Hope Street to Waterman. You had that lunatic scoping the place out. And you even had the custodial person, Derek Lisi, and I give him a lot of credit. They kept noticing that guy and did say something. And Brown security, police, whatever term you want to use, they were not equipped and set up to handle something such as a suspicious person. And let's be very clear. There's a lot of different types of characters that gather around a college campus. There's a lot of characters around Thayer Street. But as I said, if you have that mentality that we're really good people and we give out sandwiches to the homeless and we let the homeless come into our buildings and use the restrooms and we let the homeless sit in on lectures, with some of these professors, and we let the downtrodden shower in certain facilities. When you make that decision, you can't control who comes in. This was a very soft target, and this individual scattered it out. Initially I was saying, notice he was only on the fringe of the campus, because that's what we were being told. We were told, oh, he just showed up that Saturday. Now we find out he was, there for weeks. He could have been all over the campus. And then, I hate to say this, but he correctly identified that building was not only a soft target and was open 24/7, but he also determined he could make a quick escape and be very quickly off the campus. And let's be very clear, that's what he did. As far as homeless individual and everyone demanding that he be given this $50,000 reward. And I don't know exactly what provoked. I don't know what provoked Attorney General Peter Neronha. I don't know what that was when he said, oh, he helped us break open the case and blah, blah, blah. I'm not sure what to make of that. Maybe at some point we'll get the answer. I found it odd. Kind of threw the Providence Police under the bus with that. He would probably say, oh, it wasn't my intent. But the fact of the matter is, I've learned that when he posted on Reddit on Tuesday, someone forwarded that tip to the police. So when the Providence Police did get that Reddit post about the vehicle, they started tracking down the vehicle. By the time the homeless came on Wednesday to talk to police, they already had the footage from the car rental place in Massachusetts near Boston. And as a result of that, he also rented the car in his name. So they got a name. Just a matter of trying to figure out where he was. By the time the homeless guy got in, they already had the car. Granted, his Reddit post drawing attention to the car, that was valuable. But I'll admit, this whole business, he broke the case wide open. They didn't catch him. And according to the autopsy, the shooter was already dead by then. According to that he took his own life on the Tuesday. So I maintain, I think there are some heroes here. From what I understand, when we start to get more information about some of the students that survived the shooting, because you haven't heard anything from them, I've heard that they were very supportive of police. No, beyond supportive, that's the wrong word. They were helpful to police. They were the ones behind the scenes that really were giving the best intel to the police. You can't ignore, I was there, the FBI, Kash Patel, they threw off the whole investigation. They never should have leaked. They shouldn't have at 7:00 in the morning said we have someone in custody. Excuse me. We are detaining someone, a person of interest. That was a mistake. Kash Patel put that out, a public post that rocketed, and then at the 12:00 press briefing, they acted like the whole thing was solved. In hindsight, they should not, at that 7:00 briefing on the Sunday morning, they shouldn't have revealed that they were detaining someone, a person of interest. They should have, in hindsight, just begun a full investigation, because it turned out, as we know, to be the wrong person. They lost all day Sunday. And then President Paxton stepped up and said, this nightmare is over. Everyone can go home. And we know that it was not over. Excuse me. So this has been brewing. This has been brewing for some time. Going forward, Palestinian protesters and others, we don't want security cameras on the campus. It's hurting freedom of speech. Too bad. Wrong. Go somewhere else. You can't listen to the ACLU. The ACLU does not make people safer. You need cameras for everyone that's going into the building, coming out of the building. And you need cameras inside the buildings. We should have been able to see the hallway. You should have been able to see. They don't have cameras in the classrooms. They would have been able to identify this individual. I'll go a step farther. It could have been a deterrent. That could have been a deterrent to the shooter. Might have been. nothing is guaranteed, but I want you to just, if you step back for a moment, if they didn't have the glitch, if they weren't, and they were, and it's hard. You got to remember, police are a paramilitary operation. When the FBI, which supersedes local, when they say, we have a person of interest, they were basically acting, and I'll say this, but they were acting like, hey, we solved it for you. We got the right person. That's what Kash Patel put out. If you step back, if Brown was better organized, Brown, whatever term you want to use, Brown public safety, Brown police, Brown security, but if they were better organized, number one, they needed to have communication with that custodial person. That goes way back. That's number one. Number two, they should have said, okay, who are the people that are always in this building? And if someone had said, there's this homeless guy, he's a Brown grad, John, he's always in and out of that building. That person should have been located. He could have then said, I saw this car, didn't seem to belong here, and then track that. As soon as they had the vehicle, they had the flock cameras, and then they were able to trace it to the car rental. But he didn't come forward. He didn't do the Reddit post, I don't believe, till Tuesday, and then police got alerted to it. It's possible he could say that he didn't post anything or say anything because they believed, or he believed, everyone seemed to believe on Sunday after with Buffalo that it was basically solved. They thought they had the right person in custody, and that clearly wasn't it. When you look at it like that, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, they knew who they were looking for. Actually, I think even Tuesday night. Granted, it wasn't until Thursday they traced it to the Salem storage, Salem, New Hampshire storage. But Sunday was a pivotal day. None of those students should have left the campus. Everyone should have been interviewed. Even the custodial person, I learned that Brown has a policy. You're an employee there. You have information, you give it to Brown. The employee, the custodial person, Derek Lisi, no axe to grind. I'd still to talk to him, but he phoned it in tip line. My question is, someone should have been reaching out to him, or vice versa. On Saturday night, his information should have gotten to the right person. So see that person, that's the same guy. Like, they weren't wrong on that. They weren't wrong on that. You don't hear anyone saying that, by the way, but they weren't wrong on who it is they were going after. And we're going to talk again in just a moment. Former Providence lieutenant. We're going to talk to him about Hugh Clements. I think it's a big move. It's a big move for several different reasons. Someone had mentioned to me a former of the Rhode State Police. That's fine. But Hugh Clements was a Providence officer. Clements rose through the ranks of Providence. Hugh Clements knows Providence. Something that has to change here and to really be solidified is the relationship between the Providence Police and Brown Safety, because that Chapman was useless. That Chapman else has to change. We don't want to do active shooter drills because we don't want to traumatize the students. You need to do them. And for employees, they have to be mandatory. They haven't been mandatory. Who wants to show up for something that's voluntary? Students need to do active shooter drills. As I've been saying, left there. I was there Saturday at 4:45. I left there 1:45 in the morning. 4:45 in the afternoon, left at 2. At 1:45, they were still evacuating students. If they had a plan, that should have been executed in less than 90 minutes. If they had everybody off the campus in 90 minutes, it just could operate differently. Listen, and I was there. It was very hectic. He thought the shoe was still loose. It could have been. They thought there could have been other victims of the buildings. There was a shooting on Gun Street. That was false alarms. They grabbed a student in the basement of a building they thought was the person. Then there's all kinds of false alarms. So over the police radio, there were things somebody initially said over the police radio, victim on floor 7. That was false. Someone said over the police radio, shooter down. Well, that was false. So you can go, but it's street because a lot of it accurate. I want to remind you folks, Merry Christmas, everyone from ServPro of Providence. Remember, disaster strikes, ServPro, fire, smoke, mold, ServPro of Providence. 401-941-5500, 401-941-5500, ServPro of Providence. He was good enough to be on with us last week, and with he's we've used him. I've now used him with several investigations. Let's bring him on. Former lieutenant with Providence Police, and it is our friend Danny Gainey. Danny, thank you for taking the time. I want to first get your reaction to the news that your former colleague, Chief Clemens, will now be coming in as interim chief.
Merry Christmas, John, to you and your listeners, and thank you for having me on today. As far as Colonel Clemens goes, he's a high-level leader, and he's the right person at the right time for Brown University. I worked with him in Providence. He's just beyond reproach.
Go ahead. I was going to say, can you tell us? Yep.
Can I tell you what? What, John? What's the question?
The question was, what type of dynamic exists with Providence Police? And then as Providence Police, though, then you also have to deal with Providence College has security. RISD has police security. Johnson & Wales has police security. RISD Brown has police security. From what I understand, this Chapman was completely unhelpful to the Providence Police. But if you could just touch on the dynamic of technically the Providence Police, it's their city, but they do have to work with some of these other agencies.
Right. So Brown University, Providence College, Johnson & Wales, RISD, a lot of the security or the police departments that they have within those institutions are retired police officers. A lot of them are. So they come with that experience. And if you don't know who Colonel Clemens is, you're probably in the wrong line of work. He's been around for a long time, and his reputation is unquestionable.
Danny, if you're Chief Clemens coming in, what are some of the things you immediately, what's on the to-do list right out of the box?
Well, he's going to sit down with the president, obviously, and find out what her agenda is, what she's looking for. I think he got to work already right away. So he's no slacker. He'll do the right thing there, and his connections throughout the state and the country. He'll start reaching out to his connections, the other universities, and he'll form a strong partnership with them, and he'll get them on the right track. I know he will.
What are some of the things you would do if you were placed in this position right out of the box?
Right out of the box, you'd have to sit down with the president and find out.
We know that.
And then you meet with
I get that, but the president doesn't. Danny, the president doesn't know public safety. The president doesn't know policing. So let's just say that meeting takes place, and the president says, "You do whatever you have to do." If you were in that position, what would you do?
Start reaching out to the contacts from the local police departments, other colleges. And see, the good thing with Colonel Clemens is he came from Providence. So the connection's automatically there. They'll work hand in hand together. And he understands the difference between a city police department and a university police department. The rules are a little bit different, and the dynamics and the environment's different. And Colonel Clemens can dance in any circle. He's that good. And I'm sure that's what he's going to do, is he's going to meet with his team, tell them what he expects from them, and he's a no nonsense leader. So I don't think he's going to have any issues there. He's the right guy at the right time, well respected.
All right, can we go through checklists? I mean, number one, certainly have to look at what buildings are basically open to the public 24/7. I think that's got to end. Why is there such a lack of cameras? That's got to end. And when you have a custodian saying that I notified a Brown security person who is, farmed out. He's not really Brown security. They hire a management company. And the guy basically said, I'm not hired for that. I think they have to get a handle on exactly what is the relationship between, quote, some of these outside party security firms that are hiring and the current force that they have.
Right. And Colonel Clements will do exactly that. So he'll know who's on campus, what contractors are on campus, what security contractors. Apparently, this was an event security that they had hired. That'll all be reeled in, and he'll know exactly what's going on. The communication, it's important, as you see in that situation there. So he'll do all
Should
that.
he hire more people? Should he hire more people?
Well, I'm sure he's going to have to get in there and look and see what he has as far as needing more people. I don't know that that's the answer. I'm not sure.
There are some former Providence police on the squad. I've heard, and I'm not sure if you had worked with them, but the name that I have is they have, I think it's Vincent Caravallo. I believe he's on the staff. What do you know of any of the current, maybe they're former Providence police, they're now with Brown?
Do you mean John Carvalho?
Yes.
Yeah. So John was a very good Providence cop, and a lot of them, when they retire, they'll go to Brown. They know the area, they're familiar with it, they've worked up there, and it's just, moving from one venue to another. And now that Colonel Clements is in charge, you'll see a lot of camaraderie, and morale will be lifted, and it's just going to be a much better place. It's just Colonel Clements is the right guy at the right. I'm surprised they got him.
Well, his term with the administration left, and I know that I thought he was working for Axion, which is they're the ones, the company I deal with. They provide the body cam footage, but I'm pretty confident that I think, Danny, right now, I think it's a coup to get him. Let's talk about some of the policies. Let's say you have some students that say we like to leave this door open so homeless people can come into the dorm and use the bathroom when it's cold in the winter. What type of policies do they need to change?
That's not a good idea. For now, the building should be on lockdown. What building would the public have to go into? I don't know. So, I mean, I'm sure he'd look into that, but you need access. You need access cards. Access is going to be very important. So the other thing is, I'm sure he'll hold these little toolbox talks or training sessions where if you're an employee or a student and you have access to a building, make sure the door's shut behind you. You don't let somebody walk in behind you because they're fumbling for their card. And if you see somebody walking around a building, you see something, you say something. But it has to go somewhere, and it has to be documented. And
Right.
How Colonel Clements sets that up, obviously it's up to him, but I'm sure it'll be something along those lines. It'll be tight.
Danny, it's amazing. I mean, you and I are both familiar with that area. I've been going up there forever, but it's one thing you see some of the characters that are unhoused that are in around Thayer Street, but this is different when you have a custodian saying there's a guy walking around inside of a building, peeking into classrooms and looking around. But Danny, you just said something very key. The question is, do they even have a protocol of what security should do if they even get a call like that?
I'll tell you right now, John, if they don't, they will.
Yeah. because you know from policing, and when we're out, when I'm out doing it, you'll hear many times this could be anywhere in the city. Caller, Branch Avenue seems to be a male looking into cars or backyards or things like that. And then obviously they send a unit over. This to me sounds like it's very possible that they didn't even have that type of policy. So I know it'd be very easy for people to then blame the security guard that was hired for an event that the custodian, told, and apparently even told the same one twice about this guy has a very distinct walk and he's walking around here. I don't think he belongs here, but it's very possible that they didn't have anything, that he was saying, hey, that's not my job description. I'm not supposed to do anything with that.
Right. So one of the things that Colonel Clements will probably look at is any outside contractors will be brought in for safety briefings before they work on the campus, and he'll let them know what's expected. And just something like that, probably, if something's reported to you, please turn and report it to one of our guys, something along those lines. But there won't be information that stops and just goes into thin air. It'll be documented. It'll be reported.
Danny, and something else that just jumps out at me, the custodian, he was interviewed by the Boston Globe, interviewed on Channel 12, but he basically, it's my understanding, he contacted the tip line either Saturday night or Sunday. But see, to me, what jumps out at me is that's a problem, because you're a Brown employee. Granted, he was on leave. I think he's been off for the entire month. He's been there a number of years, has vacation time, but I believe you're supposed to have a process where the tip line to me is just John Q. Public going through, see something. But if you're a Brown employee, I mean, I don't want him calling the tip line. That tells me that no one was even contacting him saying, hey, you were a custodian in that building. Did you see anything?
Right. Are you talking about the 311, the city tip line?
No, I'm talking about he contacted the tip line they put out.
Oh, gotcha.
Basically, when I was at the press conference, they were saying, if you have any information about this, call the Providence police. So it could be that he contacted a tip line. But what I'm saying is, it's my understanding that that should have been uncovered internal by I would imagine by Brown Security.
Right, I agree. I thought they said every tip was followed up till the end, exhausted. But I'm not sure if he ever called a tip line. I can't verify that or not. But I mean,
I understand. But I'm just saying,
does Brown have their own tip line separate from the city's 311 information?
I'm just saying, I don't think if you're a professor or you're a custodian or you actually are employed by Brown, I don't think you should be put into the same mass as the general public. I'm saying it should have been, let's talk to and interview anyone that works here that had access to that building to see if they had, if they knew of anything, as opposed to hoping that one of your employees would think of something and then, reach out with the tip line. Right. So, Danny, anything else stand out to you with this whole thing, or how this whole thing has come down?
I think anything now is Monday morning quarterbacking. I'm sure everything will be reviewed from start to finish, what we did right, what we did wrong, what we could do better. And I'm 100% sure that Colonel Clements is probably thinking the same way. And I'm telling you, I'm surprised that Brown got him. He's the right guy at the right time. He's well respected throughout the state, the country. He's just beyond reproach.
Folks, there he is, our police expert. It is the one and only former lieutenant in Providence, Danny Gannon. Danny, again, great to see you. Thanks, and we'll continue to talk to you throughout this story.
Okay, Merry Christmas, John.
All right. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Folks, there he is, Danny Gannon. I want to just mention, folks, and I can also understand that someone like Danny worked with Hugh, doesn't want to overstep it, but I'm going to just come out. So just some of my thoughts, and that is, make no mistake about it. They have about 5 weeks. Hugh Clemens, Chief Clemens, in his whoever he's going to bring in, because you got to have a strong number two. But they have 5 weeks where they have to turn things around, and they have an action plan, from what I understand. But they need to get this campus ready for the second semester when the students are going to come back, and that is the priority. And what they have, and they did illustrate a number of different things. The letter that the president put out. First and foremost, the building's going to have to go essentially for a period of time on lockdown, and you're going to have some kids, by the way, that won't come back. I mean, you have the students that say, I'm too traumatized to come back. You could have some students that say, I'm not ready to go back there. I don't feel safe going back there. But they need wholesale changes. You need to know who is going in and out of your buildings. You have ID cards. We have to swipe. That system has to be used. You can't have unlocked doors. You can't have there. Do you understand? There's no video inside that building. There's no video. You have two parts of the building. You have the older building, and then you have the newer building. And apparently, I'm told that there's video of students running from into the new building, but they didn't go that way. He very calmly walked out the other way. And so as a result of that, the first thing, Brown has to really upgrade their video surveillance capabilities. You're also going to get dash cams on those cars. Excuse me. They don't have dash cams. They should have dash cams. It's very possible that the police need to have body cams, body cam footage. Body cam footage is very useful, as a matter of fact. So I think Chief Clemens is the right person, but I think right now you have about the next month. You need to get contractors, you need to upgrade, you need to turn this whole thing around. You need to have video of everyone. I mean, just think of it, folks. If you went to school there, or you were going to start to work there, let alone some of the professors, you've got to have video that is showing who's going in and out of your facilities, and that you have handle of who's going out of the facilities. And again, you'll probably have progressives and certain students that are going to object to it, and they don't want that. But I think you can't listen to those voices. So it is good news that Chapman is out, that Hugh Clemens is coming in. It sounds like he's going to hit the ground running. He's going to report directly to the president. He will instantly have a solid relationship with Chief Perez, Deputy Chief O'Hara. They reported to Chief Clemens. Chief Perez became the chief because Hugh Clemens left. So that's solid. He's got, a major strong relationship with Major David LePayton, but he's got to get them up to speed. Brown can't be reactionary. They need this is going to be a lot, and it's going to be a big day when students are supposed to arrive back on the campus, and they can't be arriving at a campus that's going to be the same. I also want to touch on, I haven't read it, but apparently Mark Patinkin has another flattering story. They're writing all these flattering stories about the mayor of Providence. And listen, I like Mayor Smiley. I respect Mayor Smiley. He and his staff were very, cordial to me during this whole thing. You could hear they'd call on me by name and so forth. They know that I cover the city. But do I have to be the only one locally to say that our leaders actually didn't seem to handle it that well? That, they were all praising Mayor Smiley. I still don't know what Governor McKee was doing up there. Governor McKee, to me, if you saw, especially the Thursday night briefing, he looked ill. He looked Biden-esque. You didn't need him up there. I thought you didn't need all those people up there? Why was Beanham up there? You didn't need all the council people up there. They just cluttered things. You didn't. I think that I thought that was totally unnecessary. You know, in looking back, you really just needed Mayor Smiley. I don't think you needed Governor McKee. What I have him up there to say hello to everybody, but I think it should have just been the mayor, Colonel Perez, obviously FBI representative, state police, ATF, but you didn't need all those. Just added to clutter. And then you got to remember, all those people then have to be briefed, and that takes time. And then they have questions, and you know, less is more. And also, I think these briefings should have just been what they were, which were police briefings. Every time they had those briefings, the only thing people wanted to know was, did you get them? If not, who is it, or what do they look like, or things like that. I mean, the briefings, make no mistake about it, the briefings were the right thing to do, to put the information out there. But two things to me. Number one, the setup that Chapman had at Brown, he threw things off, and it was too lackadaisical. And you can't have a building that 24/7 and homeless people in and out. That's got to end. You can't have that. You got to have more video cameras. That's not invasion of privacy. It's a security issue. You know, they only had that one footage from a building of him leaving. This was someone who was a psychopath. This is someone, the shooter was a killer. This is someone who scoped the place out, figured out where he could park his vehicle. They don't have him getting in and out of his vehicle. And by the way, I believe that, because if you saw the footage when I was down into Fox Point, Ives Street, Gano, that is walking distance to the campus, and you have a lot of dead zones over there. So and there is obviously distrust. There are people that still think there's footage inside the building. They think they're withholding footage from outside the building. I mean, that I think they put out that they had that first night, that Saturday night at the first briefing that I was there, when Deputy Chief O'Hara said, we don't have footage of him inside. We don't have him coming into the building, and we don't have footage of him in the building. And that was right. They were right the first night. That was never proven differently. If people want to go down the path of that they don't believe it, then, I mean, you could say that about anything. You could say that about anything. But I also want to just mention, actually, and there's a couple things that just randomly that I believe, and let me also, I want to thank a couple people. I want to thank J. Perry Paving, who's been so tremendous. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, everyone from J. Perry Paving. They do such a fantastic job. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year also from everyone with JD Lawn Care. JD Lawn Care and Tree Service. Call them 401-441-0154. Merry Christmas from everyone at JD Lawn Care. Merry Christmas to everyone from Watson Materials. Sean says Watson Materials. Call them 401-885-0600. Landscape lighting, pavers, retaining walls, natural stone, cobblestone. Watson Materials. 401-885-0600. Let me also say Merry Christmas, Marie. It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. Stop it and see the Queen. Last minute gift ideas. Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, everyone from It's My Health, 1099 Mendon Road in Cumberland. This business of we need wholesale change in the state. I'm going to disagree with some of the other local media. This business of, Rhode Island leaders met the moment type of narrative. I don't think that's the case. I don't find that. I think we have a huge void of leadership. Somebody's got to step up. I have video up on all of our platforms. That Maria Bucci, she ran for mayor as a Democrat. She's expected again, or was again, to mayor as a Democrat. She is the chairwoman of the Cranston Democrats. She's part of the Helena Folks campaign. Her behavior, I haven't seen it. I posted the video, just some of the highlights. It is embarrassing. It is disgraceful. The East Grinning police officer handles himself fantastic, and he's a young officer. The fact, like, what are we talking about? That Helena Foulkes still takes the money from her, and now it takes, like, there's a pattern here, where then the young Republicans people have to make noise, and then Helena Foulkes, like, on their own, they don't think we should give the money back. She got busted. Bucci, who is a disgrace. What an absolute embarrassment she is. Forget about what happened, innocent until proven guilty. Her behavior alone towards that police officer is so despicable and disgraceful. And she kept saying, you guys are embarrassed. She is just terrible. But she attended a fundraiser the next day for Helena Foulkes and handed her a check for $500. That story hit on Friday. That story was out on Saturday. That story was out on Sunday. That story was out on Monday. And still, the Foulkes people are silent, hoping what? That the story's going to go away? When does it change? When do we get a real leader to step up? We clearly have a drunk driving problem in the state. Our drunk driving laws are very weak. If it takes any action, I think we need some bold leadership. I wish there's someone who would, they're so bamby-pamby. I can't. Helena Foulkes is seemingly just McKee in a dress. I mean, there's no one weaker than him. Now we find out why he looks ill, because the Trump administration is shutting down these windmills. They're interfering with national security. The way we monitor communication across the ocean floor, those windmills that are killing the whales and killing the fisheries, that they're also interfering with national security as far as surveillance. And why does McKee want them? Because the unions, he handed special interest the entire offshore wind thing industry. And so it's not about safety. It's not even about electricity. It's the most expensive form. He just wants to get reelected. The reason why Rhode Island Governor Dan McKee looked like hell last week had nothing to do with the shooting, had nothing to do with being concerned, nothing to do with loss of life. It hit him that they were going to shut down the offshore wind scam, and then it was going to affect his reelection bid. That's not leadership. When do we get leadership? When do you get someone to step forward? When do you get someone to say, we need to toughen the drunk driving laws? And by the way, I get it. You know what I'm told? We're a tourism state. You don't want to do that to the tourists. Tourists won't come back. So we're willing to sacrifice people killed on the roads, injuring us, killing people. We're willing to sacrifice that for tourists, much like the mayor in Jaws. It's no different. Our drunk drive, Massachusetts has checkpoints. Connecticut has checkpoints. Well, in Rhode Island, blah, blah, Roger Williams and all this nonsense. I believe on the national stage under very bright lights that, and it was, as someone that was on national TV more than anyone, it was tough to defend. And we were being, mocked. And basically, everyone was referring to the leadership of Rhode Island as like DEI and lack of leadership and a clown show. And these people don't have a clue. And like, when does it start to change? Will it ever change? When does someone step up and say, this is not the way you do things? Because I'm telling you right now, it's not in the people that we have right now. It's not. And they're being, I can't believe this, I didn't read it. Someone, Mark Patinkin, has a glowing article about how can there be anything glowing about what happened? I find it very, very difficult to find anything glowing that came out of this thing. And what are they going to change? Anything goes for. No, I don't think they should have been at the AMP on Friday night getting a standing ovation from the crowd at the PC game. That looked bad. What are they applauding? They didn't stop the guy. He supposedly took his own life. So if he hadn't done that, he'd still be on the loose. I don't know. I don't know. I feel very clear, I believe, that we are in need of real leadership. And Helena Folk, now they're in the bunker. That Bucci, that Bucci of Cranston, she is everything wrong with the state, that attitude. I love, how about her? You know who oh yeah, because everyone knows who's the failed Democrat who Hopkins for mayor. Like, just a drunken, delusional moron throwing her name around. So embarrassing. Things have got to change in the new year. Well, folks, we are going to be off the next few days. I want to say Merry Christmas, one and all. Thank you, everybody. Thank you to Pete, to on our platforms. Merry Christmas. We will be back. Obviously, we can't, but I want everyone to enjoy Merry Christmas all. Say a prayer. Hope Santa brings